Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Mike. As the title shows, I got some new taillights in for the Subi today. These are the OLM Spec CR. I don't know what the CR means. They are smoked lens black base for the 2015 WRX STI. So we're gonna go ahead and get these installed, and we're gonna hopefully get some close-up, cheesy, slow-mo shots for you guys. And if you guys have any questions, drop them down below and I'll answer them as best as I can. And let's go ahead and jump into the unboxing. Like most of the parts that I get here at the house, I like to open the box up and inspect them before I pull them out on camera to make sure I'm not pulling out a broken headlight or a tail light or anything that I get. So let's go ahead and get this thing unboxed. I've already looked at it, they look good, but it's basically I'm going to show you what you get when you get them from either Subi Speed, Rally Sport Direct, wherever you want to buy them from. So let's go ahead and get this going here. So again, these are the smoked taillights. And like I said, I've already unboxed this myself to make sure everything looks good, but I want to show you what it comes with, which is honestly nothing really. So it does have some pretty good shipping styrofoam in it. Let's toss that aside. Now, how it comes packaged is, as you see here, all it has is a little bit of documentation, and the taillights are nicely snug in this foam styrofoam. So we'll go ahead and pull these out, and it'll give you a couple close-ups and my opinion on how the wiring looks, the seals, and whatnot. All right, so the documentation that's in there, from what it shows, it looks like it's just a brief description of the unit itself. So it just basically tells you that it's got brake lights, running brake lights, reverse lights, you know, things a taillight has. So thank you, OLM, for telling me what a taillight has. I appreciate that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and pull this out of the plastic. And we're just gonna show you one because they're both pretty much identical, except, you know, obviously flipped around. And it does come with a covering on the lens, which I'll go ahead and get that nice peelage. And I have not pulled that part off. I just wanted to make sure that it was not broken when I received it. And these do look really, really good. As you see, the lenses themselves are kind of 3D. They kind of have like a 3D effect to it. So I'm really, really anxious and eager to see what these look like when they're installed on the vehicle. On the other side, you do see that it has like a heat sink and some other wires hooked up to it. These are supposedly plug and play, so we'll see how that goes. It looks like you might have to do a little bit of wiring management. So I'll probably end up, after I get this installed, tucking these around and zip tying it up, which I'd probably recommend doing. It does look like it has some foam that sits around here. We'll see how well this seals on the unit. I have heard there are problems with these taillights and having moisture inside, so that's just gonna be one of those things where time will tell. It looks like the posts that the nuts will sit on for the factory nuts to cinch this down to your vehicle, they are embedded in plastic, so we'll go over the installation on this to make sure you don't actually crank down too hard and crack the plastic. But overall, the unit looks really, really nice. Like I said, I'm anxious to get this installed in the vehicle. So let's go ahead and start tearing apart the back of the Subaru and get these installed. The very first step in order to get to our taillights is, because they're tucked behind these formed carpeted panels, is to lift our trunk floor out and get it out of the way. So there's a little loop pull, so we're gonna pull that up. And the sides usually fold in, and you pull this straight out. Okay, now that the floor is removed, we gotta get some pop clips that are holding these interior panels in place. So if you look inside, you're gonna see one right here. There's gonna be one directly up on the top of the bulkhead. There's gonna be one directly down here. And these are more likely gonna be the only three you need to pull, but for my sake, I'm gonna pull this entire panel. And if you feel like doing it, there's also two back here that you can pull. Now, these pop clips are a two-piece design, so make sure you're getting in between the black piece and the white piece. You're gonna pry out the black piece because it sits inside the white, and then you're gonna take underneath the white one and then pull that out. You're gonna do that to all those pop clips. Now, the next piece that's gonna have to come off is this interior plastic panel. You're gonna have pop clips just like the ones we just removed. There's one in the center, one over here, and then there's one over here. So we're gonna go ahead and pop that off, and that'll give us access to remove the actual panel itself, because this is actually held in by the pop clip down here. Now, since you got those pop clips out of this panel, it should just pop and snap right up and lift up out of place, and you go ahead and set that aside. Now that we have that trim piece removed, I'm gonna go briefly show you what I'm talking about. There's this body panel part right here and the hole in this carpeted side panel. So whenever you go back to install, it's just to make sure that you do have this line back up and that pop clip removed from that plastic panel goes and holds this back in here. All right, so now we have all the pot clips removed from the side panel. You can go ahead and remove it so we can get access to our taillights. The best way to do this is to grab this leading edge that's near the trunk, pull it in, and it kind of curves, and it just folds down, and you can pull it straight out of the trunk. Okay, so our first step in order to remove these taillights is to remove the wiring harness that is plugged in. It's a simple little plug type harness. You're gonna push down on it and pull out. I already have extra wiring down here because I have a third brake light. So this would be the time, if you're doing that as well, to tap into that. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is separate this wiring harness off of the actual stud. It's got a friction type little lock on there. All you're gonna do is gonna grab that and wiggle and pull it off. And then it should just pop right off just like that. The next step is gonna remove these 3 nuts that are holding your taillight assembly to your chassis. I'd recommend grabbing a deep well 8mm and a 1/4 inch ratchet because these are not held on, they're very tight. And then you're just gonna go ahead and remove those. Now that we have the 3 nuts removed, we can go ahead and push this taillight out. It may stick a little bit because of the foam liner that's on the inside to keep a seal. That might be sticking a little bit, so the best way to do is just kind of where the plugs are at, is to push from reverse and then catch it as it comes out. So now that it's loose, we can go ahead and remove it. And then go ahead and set your stock one off to the side. Right now, since the taillight's out, would be the best time to go ahead and hose this down with one of your quick detailers and wipe it out. That way you're not sealing a new taillight up with a bunch of dirt and debris in here. Do pay attention to this white clip right here because when we're putting our new one in, it's gonna have to slide into that, so don't damage or lose this white clip. All right, so now we're ready to install our new OLM taillights. We're gonna take that wiring harness and shove it through the hole, try not to scratch the paint. And then we're gonna take this and line up with that white clip that I mentioned before to make sure that it fits in the slot. And then we're gonna place those 3 holes lined up with the studs, and then we're gonna firmly push in straight back, not from the side. All right, the next step before we go ahead and cinch this thing down is we're gonna function check it. I'm gonna go ahead and plug in the harness, and then I'm gonna go and turn on my lights and check to make sure all the functions work before we go ahead and hard install this. I'm gonna do that off camera, and then we'll come back and finish installing this. Okay, so all my tests look good, all my lights work. The reverse light, if you wanna test that, you have to put your key on the on position. You don't have to start it, but it's the only way the reverse lights work. So we're gonna go ahead and start cinching down these nuts. Just put those back on the posts. Do remember that these posts are in plastic, so do not crank down on this because you do not want to have to explain to where you purchased this from why you broke it. So go ahead and put a little inward pressure with the taillight, and then finger tighten these down. And then we're gonna go ahead and grab our 8mm, and we're gonna very, 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 very carefully snug these down because you do not want to break these taillights. So now that the nuts are installed, right now would be a good time to clean up your wiring so it's not rattling around behind this panel. I'm gonna get some zip ties, I'm gonna clean this up, and also remember to make sure to reattach this plastic tab that mounts on the post right here. So when we come back, all my wires will be cleaned up with zip ties. Now that we have our taillights firmly installed with our nuts tightened down and our wiring harness zip tied and tucked up out of the way, right now would be the best time to go ahead and put your interior back together, and we're gonna go ahead and pull away from the car, and we're gonna see the difference between the 2 taillights. So I'm gonna go ahead and run through the light sequences for you to show you what the difference between stock and this new OLM unit is. So here are the running lights. Here are the brake lights. Here are the reverse lights. And of course the turn signals. And all of them at the same time, so we have our running lights, our reverse lights, our turn signals, and our brake. So all the lights being shown. Now that we got our new OLM taillight installed on the left-hand side, I'm gonna go ahead and install the passenger side, and I'm gonna go ahead and give you some B-roll after this. But do please subscribe. I do have some more parts coming in for the Subi. I do have the new Subi Speed Redline headlights coming in, so that'll be here sometime next week, I believe. I also have some Avant side mirror turn signals. They're pretty expensive, drop ship from Japan, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day, stay safe, and here's your cheesy B-roll.